we don't get taught how to listen properly. And most people, and I was one of these people for a long, long time, for most of my life, when we're listening to respond. And what I mean by that, when you're listening, but you're also, there's another voice going on of, oh yeah, does that apply to me? Oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that's my experience. Oh, that's a mug over there. You know, you've got that narrative self, what we call the narrative self, which is processing all the information that's coming in. So what that does is the narrative self will, and the chatter will go to all of the things that it knows, right? And if you hear something, let's say you're hearing something and the narrative self or the chatter goes, and it goes against what it said, what it believes, it will throw it out. It will say, no, 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 that doesn't, that doesn't tally up with my experience of the world. I'm going to throw it out. In order to learn something new, in order to see things differently, in order to have a different perspective, in order to have a different understanding of the world, we need to listen without that narrative self. We need to listen purely just for the sake of listening. Now, it doesn't mean you have to agree with what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you have to go with it. I just want you to not have an opinion about it, because that, again, is going to be just that your narrative self, or some people call the ego, is just kicking off, basically. And just let what I say in this next sort of hour or so, just let it wash over you like a shower, and just try to close your eyes and just listen to what I'm pointing to, and just try to listen with a quiet mind. And when you listen to what I'm saying with a quiet mind, then you might see something new, you might see something different, and it might be helpful. And that actually goes for every time you listen or read or listen to a loved one or have a conversation. The more quiet you are when you're listening to others, the more connected you're going to feel with them, and the more connected you're going to feel with what they're saying. But then also, what you'll find is that in that space, that's the space that we're talking about. That's the space that we're referring to. That's the space that we're pointing you always back to, which is that quiet mind, that space of peace, that space of contentment. That's the space that's always been there. That's the space that exists before an anxious mind exists. It actually exists before any mind exists, that quiet space. So you can fill that in with a happy mind, or a busy mind, or an anxious mind, or a depressed mind, or a loving mind, or a joyful mind, or an excited mind. Whatever that mind is up here, the space underneath, that quiet, that content, that's the space that's always there. That's the constant. And everything that's on the top just kind of shifts and changes, and you've got different experiences and different feelings and different emotions. But the quiet and the contentment, That's what we're pointing to. That's what we're always pointing to.